Hello and welcome. Welcome to all of you, to SSUC, to Spiritual Seekers United in Community, for this gathering of Sunday, August the 15th, 2021. I had to check my paper to see what date it was. Today, we continue our series on Windows to Wonder, Pondering Everyday Sacraments. We're pondering the ordinary, everyday things that often just pass by our notice. And we're focusing on them so that perhaps they may not pass by our notice, and we might be able to learn some wisdom from what we see in us and around us every day. So I welcome you. My name is Chris, and on behalf of my teammate Nancy Steves, who is enjoying some well-deserved time away this August, welcome, along with our pianist Eric Schneider this morning, who is giving us a real concert today, and really a wonderful gift to us, seeing that it's his last opportunity to play with us this summer and for a while, because he's moving himself to Calgary for further studies. And so we thank you, Eric, for being here and playing with us and for us. Also, thanks to Pam and Heidi, who are giving us vocal leadership this morning, and for Noah and Dara giving us technical support. We are glad to be with you and to bring this time to you, wherever you happen to be. We are a community that welcomes all and the entire human family. We want you to feel welcome wherever you are and whoever you are. Part of who we are as community welcomes people from wherever they have come from, wherever they're going, all ages and stages, all sizes and cultures, all genders and sexualities, all abilities and traditions and religions, all seekers. What unites us really is our desire to create community with one another, centered on how we wish to live, our best and highest human values, seeking to be the best community, the best people we can be with and for each other. As we recognize that we here in South Edmonton are on Treaty 6 territory, and wherever you happen to be, you might spend a moment recognizing and sharing gratitude for the land and the peoples of history and tradition and present community that you're a part of. We recognize when we do that it's easy for it to become perfunctory, for it to become simply a rote thing that we say or do. It reminds us that in the last months, when our relationship with and to Indigenous peoples has seen new news and breaking news at different turns, that it's so easy for us, when it has fallen out of the news cycle, for us to simply carry on and continue in ignorance, in privilege. And so we take a moment to recognize that even when it's not in front of us daily, our relationship and our reconciliation remains a commitment, not just for us as a community or us as citizens of a country, but us as humans who seek to be at one with each person in the human race. It's our privilege, but also our duty, to seek oneness and unity. And that means learning and continuing to grow in our recognition of what we can do to be people of reconciliation. Many of you might have candles at home that you light when you join us. We do this candle lighting not only because it is important to us that we have this symbol that reminds us of the light that we share in the light of life, but also because this light and this candle reminds us of our community separated by distance and time, but our community that remains strong and together. So as you light your candle, remember our community. Remember that it's not long before we can be together and start rebuilding this in-person community again. May this light remind us of our connection and our love for each other. Today's Time for All Ages introduces us to this week's everyday sacrament. It is the wind. And today's book is entitled When the Wind Stops. It's written by Charlotte Zolotow and illustrated by Stefano Vitali. The great bright yellow sun had shone all day, and now the day was coming to an end. The light in the sky changed from blue to pink to a strange dusky purple. The sun sank lower into the long glowing clouds. The boy was sorry to see the end of the day. He got ready for bed, and the boy's mother came to say goodnight. "Why does the day have to end?" he asked her. "So night can begin," she said. Look, she pointed out the window where high in the darkening sky, behind the branches of the pear tree, the boy could see a pale sliver of moon. That's the night beginning, his mother said. The night with the moon and the stars and darkness for you to dream in. But where does the sun go when the day ends? The boy asked. The day doesn't end, said his mother. It begins somewhere else. The sun will be shining there when night begins here. Nothing ends. Nothing? The boy asked. Nothing. It begins in another place or in a different way. The boy lay in bed and his mother sat beside him. Where does the wind go when it stops? He asked. It blows away to make the trees dance somewhere else. Where does the dandelion fluff go when it blows away? Well, it carries the seed of new dandelions to someone's lawn. Where does the mountain go after the top? Down to where it becomes the valley. Where do waves go when they break on the sand? Sucked back to the sea into new waves. And where does the rain go when the storm is over? Into clouds to make other storms. Where do clouds go when they move across the sky? To make shade somewhere else. And the leaves in the forest when they turn color and fall? Into the ground to become part of new trees with new leaves. But when the leaves fall, that is the end of something, the boy said. It's the end of autumn. Yes, his mother said. The end of autumn is when winter begins. And the end of winter? The end of winter, when the snow melts and the birds come back, is the beginning of spring. The boy smiled. It really does go on and on, he said. Nothing ends. And he looked out at the sky. The sun was gone completely. The lovely pink clouds had disappeared. The sky was dark and purple-black. High above the branches of the pear tree shone clearly now a thin new moon. Today is over, his mother said. It's time for sleep. And tomorrow morning when you wake, the moon will be beginning a night far away. And the sun will be here to begin a new day with you.
Good morning. This is entitled What I've Learned from a Life of Sailing. It's from the words of John Miles. I grew up sailing on Lake Walloon in Michigan when every taste was new, the wind was alive, and every vision unique. This was a time when I was learning about the world, and sailing came as a blinding rush that melted into endless revelation. The world comes alive as the tiller attaches to the vessel, and with each dip and wallow of the boat, senses come alive. There's a wind in your face, the smell of fresh air, the rock of the boat, and yet tranquility. Sailing teaches me that you can't always get from one place to the next in a direct line. If my desired endpoint is upwind, I have to navigate to an alternative point in a length of time before pointing back to my goal. This maneuver is called tack. Learning how to tack has taken me years in the boat, even longer in life. Sailing teaches me that it's the little things that matter the most. I have to understand the intricacies of tying a knot, when to tack, or how to read the wind. And they're all crucial to a safe and successful sail. But what do I watch? Where do I set my eyes? Do I cast my vision to the horizon or keep my focus on the mainsail? I've learned the hard way to understand wind shifts and to watch the thin pieces of yarn on halyards that indicate a change in the wind. If I fail to accurately judge a wind shift or fail to adjust promptly, I could lose the track, or worse, the boom can swing around and knock me or the crew. Through it all, I've learned to pay attention to the small details, but not get lost in them and forget my destination. The wind doesn't obey my sail. It's the other way around. The more I've been attentive to the changes of the wind, the more I feel at one with the sea. And when I can do that, with my hand on the tiller, I feel nothing short of the rebirth of my human spirit.
We don't need to be reminded how important air is to our life and our health, I don't think. Just try not breathing for a while. It's a quick reminder. Right now, sitting wherever you're sitting, and depending on your size, you're breathing an average between 7 and 9 liters of air a minute. We're breathing about 20,000 breaths every day, adding up to around 650 million breaths in the average lifetime. And most of them, when we're well, go unnoticed. When all that air is in motion, we call it wind. We know it's caused by the uneven heating of Earth's surface by the sun. Just a quick reminder, if it's been a long time like me since science class, I was glad to be reminded that this wind is formed because the surface of the earth is made up of very different types of land and water. It absorbs the sun's heat at different rates. So during the day, the air above the land heats up more quickly than the air over water. Or you could say the air in the sun is heated more than the air in the cloudy shade. And the warm air expands and rises, and the heavier, cooler air rushes in to take its place, creating winds. And at night, the winds are reversed because the air cools more rapidly over land than over water. As real and as plain as those facts are, now that I remember them, air has long been a theme as well in spiritual writings. For eons, for generations. Let's go back to our spiritual ancestors, specifically the creation myths of the Hebrew people. In the beginning, when the earth was a formless void and darkness covered the face of the deep, a wind swept over the face of the waters. This is how the very first words in the Hebrew scriptures begin. That Hebrew word translated for us as wind is the word ruach. The word's meaning is bigger than just wind. It implies breath, either a sensible or even a violent exhalation of air. That word can mean gift or skill. That word can mean a blast, as if to knock down a wall or a door. It can mean a new direction. That word ruach can mean life itself. It can mean the force of spirit. It can mean inspiration. That old Hebrew word is a word used in the myth of creation, in that poetic way of understanding for those early Hebrew people how things might be inspired to begin. It's ruach also that animates the dry bones in Ezekiel's dream, as if some kind of animating wind or breath to make things come alive. It's ruach that's used to define the Israelites' despair and feelings of brokenness when they're wandering in the wilderness. You can see why. To have a broken spirit or a broken wind of life, it makes sense. It's the concept of ruach that an entire religious and cultural tradition uses to describe their motivation, their inspiration for carrying on and persevering. So we have to ask ourselves, how can knowing about a word or thinking upon a phenomenon like wind help us? How can thinking about this word and this idea This metaphor of wind that does all these things. It breathes movement. It blasts through the solid things we erect. It expresses wholeness and brokenness. How can all of this inspire us to think and act differently with value and integrity? I was thinking about all the ways we use the word wind in our world, and the list is quite long. I mean, we couldn't possibly name them all, but to list a few, we might get wind of something. We can feel the winds of change. That might lead us to get a second wind. We don't want to be left twisting in the wind or scattered to the four winds. But all the same, an ill wind might blow. We might throw caution to the wind, especially if we're four sheets to the wind, in which case we might find ourselves spitting into the wind. Something can take the wind out of our sails, but we always want to know which way the wind is blowing. A person can run like the wind, which causes them to be winded, which is different than being a windbag. Which, although it's an insult, is actually probably quite a true definition of at least part of our human function. We are all windbags. This moving air, it's not referring to the delicate balance of life that we walk. Is it not? This balance? Are we not always walking the line between the calm breath of life that sustains and animates us and the roaring tornadoes of emotion and thought that keep us awake at night? The nightmares and the dreams, the ill wind that blows no good and the refreshing winds of change? This balance between being left to twist in the wind but living in a dream that throws caution to it. We are in this adventure called life. And wind surrounds us and infuses us. I wonder if we could see this ocean of air that we breathe, these 20 or 30 liters that we've breathed since last I mentioned it, if we could see that as the very animator of our lives and our living, the thing that leads us into our brokenness and back out again, into the wings of newness and inspiring our forward momentum. Whatever wind that's blowing encourages us to make a decision, whether to set our sail and let the wind take us in its direction, open and flexible, willing to alter course and do the difficult work of change as we feel those winds blow. Or the choice is equally ours to stand firm as we batten down the hatches and recognize that this here, this now, is the place that defines who we are and what we want to be, the kind of legacy we wish to stamp on the world. Wind describes those decisions, those crossroads that we meet all the time. Do we adapt to the wind or do we stand against it? The wind is invisible, really. In our ordinary experience, we don't see the wind. We only know it's there because we see the things that the wind acts upon. You remember getting a feather or finding a feather and trying to keep it in the air as long as you could by blowing on it? Well, we can see the feather. We can see the candles we blow out on our birthday extinguished. We can see the branches sway. We can see the newspaper blowing down the street. We can see the windows. We can hear the windows on our houses, or the vents rattling when that wind picks up. We can feel the car being pulled left or right on the highway. We feel our hair blowing. Well, some of us remember what that was like. The wind has this wisdom to teach us about how we become strong and powerful people in the world. It's not always the things we do. We don't have to accomplish the great things. We don't have to build great things. We don't have to write great things or create great things. No. Our lives are more than that. We can be like the wind. Invisible. Present in the actions we inspire, in the responses of the people around us. What a lovely metaphor for living. That when I'm a good friend, I make a difference in my friend's life. That when you secretly put something in someone's mailbox, they don't know where it came from, but they have a happy surprise waiting. When you are just yourself and aren't trying to be anyone else, you make a difference to someone who needs you and appreciates you for exactly who you are. And you wouldn't know it until you see what difference it makes to someone else. Like John Miles, I wonder if we can learn to sail our lives in the wind, paying attention to the small details, but not at the expense of losing sight of our direction. Being attentive to the changes of the wind, making the adjustments we need, and opening ourselves to being one with the world, while knowing and loving who we are and seeing the impacts of that on others. Could we even, as Miles suggests, in attending to the everyday sacrament of the wind, feel nothing short of the rebirth of our human spirits? May it be so for us in so many ways, this week and beyond. Here's to the wind. Words to strengthen our intentions, words that feebly put into our consciousness that which we might be feeling, that which we might be inclined to commit to. We share these words either out loud or silently as we do strengthen our intentions to live more closely as we pray. We open our eyes to all that's around us and our hearts to the depths of the people with whom we walk. May we be drawn into an awareness of life's realities, something we'd often rather avoid, but which is crucial to our health. Let's not keep our convictions and ideals in some Sunday-only isolated silo. May we bring all that we are fully to the reality of our days and our world. When some days it seems that a gentle breeze invites us into the wonder of life, while other days we're flung into a whirlwind, twisted by the chaos of existence. Let's claim the wisdom of the ages, our experience, and the sacraments of nature to transform us into who we can be. May our open compassion help us confront our days with focus and fullness, remembering always that we embody the wind of wisdom, the passion of wonder, the strength of love. May it be so. A few invitations that we will share with you briefly. We are excited to be welcoming you all back to in-person gatherings starting on September the 12th. And you can now, starting this morning, reserve a space for one of those September gatherings. You can do so online at the address you see on your screen, or by phone or email if the online method isn't working for you. Just a few details that you can read about on that website. September the 12th, we're offering priority to those who live alone or who have not been able to connect online, their friends, their family, drivers, and the like. September 19th, we'll have a gathering with an emphasis on children and families with young or school-aged children, their friends, grandparents, etc. That is not limiting you from reserving a spot in those gatherings, but just so you know, those will be the focus of those times. And of course, there's the week after that as well, the 26th, that you can also reserve a space for. And then, seeing how it goes, we might be in a different place where we can assess how we'll gather after that. Today, this evening, 6 o'clock, young adults, families with kids, anyone connected with them, their families, please come to a barbecue tonight at 6. We'll be out on the front lawn. Food is all ready to go for the omnivores among us and the vegans among us. Bring your own drinks and chairs, but otherwise come and visit and connect, and we'll have a good time on the lawn. If it does happen to be smoky, we will dip inside. We know that that's a health concern for many of us. Another outdoor concert is coming up this Tuesday at 7 o'clock on the lawn. Opus 12 Chamber Concert Society will offer us some music of sea shanties and other music, chamber music, including wind ensembles and guitar and percussion. It's going to be some lovely music to enjoy outside on the lawn. And reminder that this is a fundraiser as well for the food bank. So bring some non-perishable food or bring some cash for the food bank, and we'll make it a meaningful evening. Thank you to all who contribute to SSUC in whatever way you do that. Thank you very much. If you've never donated to us, or if you're inspired to donate to us today, these are the ways that you can do so: online at our website, or an e-transfer. You can put a check in the mail. You can call us to find out how you can purchase some grocery cards. There's so many ways to support the life and the work of this community, and we thank you for the ways that you're inspired to do so.
Beauty is around us, beauty is within us, beauty is between us, beauty is unfolding in us, beauty is around us, beauty is within us, beauty is between us, opening to reveal life's sacredness, life's sacredness, revealed in the wonder, revealed in the earth, revealed in our quest for life. Strength is around us, strength is within us, strength is between us, strength is unfolding in us, strength is around us, strength is within us, strength is between us, opening to life's sacredness, life's sacredness, revealed in the wonder, revealed in the earth, revealed in our quest for life. Joy is around us, joy is within us, joy is between us, joy is unfolding in us, joy is around us, joy is within us, joy is between us, opening to reveal life's sacredness, life's sacredness, revealed in the wonder, revealed in the earth, revealed in our quest for life.
As always, it's a privilege that you welcome us into your homes and you share this time with us. As we change the light to be something different, we recognize that the wind is always blowing. May we learn from it, and may we go in the spirit of that old word, ruach, to be present to spirit, to inspiration, to wisdom wherever we find it. Thank you for joining us. Until we see each other soon. Goodbye.